You're just looking at some of the themes pervading society at large: unemployment, poverty, education, sexual assault. These are some of the topics that are covered by our author, Tokelo Hlagala, on his book, Poor Folks. The book is a collection of 4 fictional stories that unpacks the everyday struggles of an ordinary South African. Now, the author addresses social ills, having young characters who give a view, an idea, and what it really feels like to be a young South African who's trying to survive every day. The author's joining us now to unpack his offering. Tokelo, good morning. Thanks for joining us at this hour.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I was just reading the foreword, and you know, I was obviously by Phumulani Mngomezulu.
Yes.
Talk to us about the writing process, perhaps also what that foreword meant in endorsing this book for you as we start.
Yeah. So the writing process, it was during the lockdown,
Yes.
period. We had ample time to, think about the state of society.
Yep.
And so I think I was doing quite a reflection of where we are as a country in this day and age, and just looking at some of the challenges that normal people go, through on a day-to-day basis. And so in writing this book, I was looking at some of the prevalent themes around me and the people around me to say, what are some of the struggles that I'm going through? What are some of the struggles that the people around me go through?
Yes.
And I had a conversation with Phumulani, who is a thinker of note. And through having discussions with him about the human condition, about suffering, about life,
Yeah.
we got to go deeper into these different conversations.
Yeah.
And through that, this was the results of those conversations I had with him.
Talk to the research process, but even the lens through which you have this conversation through. How did you approach it in terms of presenting those social ills?
Yeah, so the research was basic because it was more of I was looking at myself as a reflection.
Sure.
And the people around me to say, what are they going through? And in thinking about myself and my challenges and looking at the people connected to me and what they are going through, it was more of taking people through a journey of understanding some of the positions that these people are in. In the book, I speak about gender-based violence and sometimes speaking on issues of why don't people who are abused leave relationships. Some of the reasons are lack of finances, lack of education. They don't have anywhere to go. So I was taking people through a journey of what are some of the reasons that people don't leave certain situations and, relating that to poverty, unemployment, and not being fully empowered to be independent.
30 years into our own democracy, I mean, we heard the address from the president also on Thursday. I'm looking at whether what emerged for you then left you with more hope or more despair. And if so, how do you navigate this realization at large?
I think I'm generally a hopeful individual.
Okay.
So I think even in the book, there's some stories that have a redemption feel to it.
Okay.
That sort of empower people to say, given all that's going wrong, there can still be some things that you make out of the situation. There's a quote that I close one of the stories in the book, and it's by Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yes.
When he says, one must have chaos in oneself to give birth to a shining star. And it's sort of the recognition that even I, as the individual, have a role to play in my life, and there's certain things that I can do in the situation that I am to uplift myself.
Speaking of which, the artwork is beautiful, and
Yes.
and it's obviously also a conversation starter in itself. Talk to
Yes.
us about the use of that image. Did you design it? Actually, it says
Orapeleng
Orapeleng did it.
Yes.
So talk to us about how it relates to poor folks.
Yeah, so the artwork was designed by a good friend of mine, Orapeleng, who is a fine artist.
Yeah.
And I had conversations with him about this book to say, I've got this collection of short stories. They speak about these various themes, and I want us to design something that doesn't necessarily speak about poverty, but something that sort of gives hope to whoever's reading the book. And so when you look at the cover and the different details, you see there's a flower there, you see there's tears there, you see there's soil. And so all of these things are sort of illuminating that even in the darkest of situations, one can still find ways of growing.
Because, there's many ways to have conversations.
Yeah.
Visual, you've obviously penned thoughts to paper as well. What do you think is the role of literature at large in furthering the discourse that is necessary in this country, given where we are and where we're headed?
Yeah, I think definitely art overall has, a role to play in our modern society as starting crucial conversations, uncomfortable conversation about the state of where we are as a country. And so I think through my writing, I'm also trying to document some of the things that are happening in our society to say, let's have conversations, from the place of literature and from the place of the arts, and discuss, how do we improve certain things, using art as a way to, start these conversations.
How do you then take it forward, right? So the responsibility or the onus lies on those who can identify the problem, because then you obviously need to be solution orientated.
Yeah.
What do you propose in hindsight, perhaps also as you reflect further?
Yeah, so in my area of work, I'm largely involved in the education space.
Yeah.
And even the book has been prescribed in some universities abroad. And so part of what we are also doing within the academic space is sort of trying to see what role, we can play as academics, as scholars in the society that we're living in. So how do we make education inclusive? How do we bridge the gap in terms of finances for accessing university and all of those things? So through my work, I'm more embedded within the space of education to say, given these themes that we are having within this book, how do we go about addressing some of these issues? And so I also do part-time lecturing in some of these universities and having conversation with the various people in different parts of the world about, the state of where we are and how, some of the things that we need to do as a society.
And so speaking of which agency comes to the fore, and again, I go back to the lens through which we tell our stories through. What do you think needs to happen on the education front? Perhaps given what, has hashtag fees must fall, try to achieve, decoloniality. You've obviously got what is more relevant in terms of a fourth industrial revolution, the curriculum at large, skills development, just to make South Africa more competitive, but also restore her agency. What have you noted on that front?
Yeah, I think we need to, relook at how education has been structured to say, does the current education we have empower people truly so? And if it does, then why are we having some of the issues, the high rates of unemployment with graduates? So perhaps we need to question some of the systems that are there to say, are they leading us to that heaven that we want to get to? So just thinking about how our education is structured and to say, what are some of the things that need to be improved, as much as it won't be perfect, but what are some of the things we can start working on so that we can move to the desired destination?
I mean, once you interact with a book, you're forever changed, right? You're leaning in to listen, to be forever changed. And I wonder what you want people to walk away with after engaging with your material, perhaps also take it forward.
Yeah, I think as much as the book is very dark, it's very sad, but I think one of the things that I want people to take from the book is hope, to say you're not alone in your struggle. And so I think through my book, I also want people to feel seen, through their struggles and tragedy, to say, actually, there's someone who understands where I am, and perhaps there can be something that I do through reading some of the stories that have an element of redemption.
Speaking of redemption, who are some of those people that epitomize that for you, have influenced you, have shifted perspective for you at large?
I think I can't pinpoint anyone specific at the moment, but I think there's quite a lot.
Sure.
So none of them is coming at the top of my mind at the moment. Yeah.
All right. And so obviously the reading is important, and we have to look at the reading culture in South Africa. We can look at the book sales statistics. We can look at, how people engage with material at large. We don't seem to be fostering such a healthy reading culture, which is obviously also going to be impacting the future at large. Yeah. How do we promote that? How do we encourage that? How do we empower more on that front?
I think what we've tried to do in the past few years, we've tried to establish book clubs in various communities, in various schools, so that we can foster this, reading habits in the young people especially, so that by the time they get to an older age, already they've got this habit of reading and just being concerned about the state of things, about life, meaning and all of those things. So I think we need to create more spaces where we empower, especially the younger ones, show them the importance of reading. So I think if we can do that, then we are shaping society in a better way.
What's next for you then? On the back of everything, work, obviously, are there more works to come? This is an anthology, so there are plenty of other stories lurking.
Yeah, so there's actually another one that we released last year, December, but this one focuses more on student entrepreneurship. So it's more research-based to say, what's the landscape of entrepreneurship in the country, and how can we use entrepreneurship to sort of overcome some of the challenges that are within this book. Yeah. So it's more of a sequel, but from a non-fiction perspective, more from a research perspective.
And it's that mindset that needs to be fostered as well. Should people want to pick up the book, interact with you as well, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so they can go to afrocentricmedia.co.za, they can buy the book there, they can go to amazon.com, they can buy the book there, or they can just engage me directly online.
All right, Tokelo, thank you for your time. Thank you for penning thoughts to paper and for sharing the story. I know that the conversation continues. Aluta continua.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there for now. The author of Poor Folks, Tokelo Hlagala, having a chat with us this morning about his book and really just speaking to the struggles that young people in South Africa face on the daily, but also offering some hope, some solutions as we navigate this new terrain in the 7th administration. Again, thank you to him for joining us at this hour.